So this is the after video, as you can see. Everything is cleaned up. Coughing because woo! Making some fire starters. Take some sawdust, a little bit of extra candles, heat the candles up on the stove, pour the candle wax into the the little cupcake tins full of sawdust, and then right at the last second you just stick the wick on. The wick is actually just dryland. Really works. Okay, so we cut up probably 15 boxes. We made some little stands for the fire starters, which is why we're doing this. We got one. This is an old one. This is what they come out looking like. Pretty nice. Because otherwise it's just garbage. So, did a bunch of cutting. So let's talk about what we found in our cutting. So I thought this knife would be really good. It's the Demco 80-20.5. It's got AUS 10A steel. It's got a pretty big cutting bevel, as you can see there, but it was not good. The steel is just too thick. Did not like it. The Little Native did fine. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. It was better than the 80-15. Whatever reason, the Vostead Raccoon again crushed. Just amazing, great cutter. I don't know what it is. It's relatively thin stock, as you can see. It's thinner stock than the 80-15 by a pretty substantial margin. But real high, flat, hollow grind. I mean, you can see there's barely anything left up there. That's all you get. It did really well. The Squid 2, it did not so good. I put a better edge on it, and it did much better, as you would imagine. Whippersnapper, okay. Put a good edge on it, and it did better. Not great, but better. Roosevelt did decent. If it was cutting thick cardboard, because of how wide the blade is, there was a lot of friction. Didn't do great. If it was cutting thin cardboard, it went through there like a hot knife through butter. So really, really good. Overall, I would give that an average. Some surprises. So obviously, this is not a surprise. This is one of the best knives on the market. Fantastic cutter. The Gent 2, not great. Which is kind of weird because the best knife I found, the one that I use the most, and get myself a callus, sorry for the gross. The best knife was the Lander. It's a really thin knife. Probably as thin, probably as thin as the TRM Neutron. But it was how tall the blade is. This blade is not tall at all. And as a result, there's not a whole lot of stuff to give you friction. So thin blade, narrow blade, it cut like a demon. Really good, really big surprise. The Vero Mini Synapse, just great. Lander was, I'll get back to it. Put a new edge on this old Cali 3. This thing was amazing. So let's rank them. If we were going to rank them, having done, about 2 hours of cutting. Probably like that. And then, there we go. That's how I would rank them. The Cali 3 was amazing. The TRM Neutron 2 was amazing. And the Lander was amazing. These are all substantially better than the rest. There's a big gap between the Lander and these two knives. These two knives were very good. I could use these knives all day. Anything from here over, you're fine. If you want that zipper sound when you cut through cardboard, you're going to go over here. These two knives, though, they're decent too. This knife is a weird knife because it's so tall, but really relatively thin. If you have the right material, this like would jump way up here. But in cardboard, like thick stock cardboard, not great. This knife needed to be sharpened, but once it was sharpened, it was fine. Same with this. And then really, these three are sort of the bottom. The whippersnapper, once it got sharpened, probably moved up to like right here, maybe, or here. But it was worse than I thought it would be, given how tall the blade is. And I think that's one thing that I learned by cutting so much cardboard so close in time, is that while you can have a thin blade, if it's a tall blade, it doesn't really, I mean, it'll cut a little better than a thick blade. But the friction problem is still legit. So like these two knives really suffered from tall blade syndrome, where they had a lot of friction because they were so tall. Same thing with the whippersnapper. This was a relatively tall blade, but because it is so thin and so well ground, it just cut like a laser. And the same thing with this guy. This guy was amazing. So, really impressed with the lander. Happily surprised with the Veramini Synapse. Everything else was about where I thought, except I thought the whippersnapper would be way up here. So, there you go. Pre and post.